Hi, I'm Madison and welcome to my channel. Today I have a manga and manhwa book haul for you. So I haven't actually filmed one of these in ever. So I'm about to move out of my apartment and figured this is the perfect time to do this. So around about from, I would say, I'm literally guessing here, I'm going to be hauling my manga from probably the last 6 months or so. So I've got about 60 different mangas and manhwas to haul for you, and I'm so excited for it that I've been collecting since around about, I want to say November-ish of last year. So maybe like more than 6 months, but you get what I mean. I've got a bunch of different ones here and I'm so excited to get into them all, and we'll just start. We'll start with the manga. I'll get to the light novels in a little bit and then we'll do the manhwa at the end. So first things first, we have Touring After the Apocalypse Volume 1. This is a pretty slice of life manga about these two girls who after the apocalypse decide to just kind of explore the world and kind of see kind of what's left after the apocalypse has happened, and after all this death and destruction they're just gonna go enjoy themselves and explore to see what's left of Japan. So they go to like hot springs, they go to like all these different places, and it's them exploring it while, you know, there's still all this death and destruction, but they're still like making do, and it's really cute and really gorgeous as like an art style. Then we have one that some of you guys might recognize right now, and that is Skip and Loafer Volume 1. This has recently come out as like an anime this simulcast season. Everyone's going goo goo gaga over it and is adoring it, which I get. This is a seinen, it's slice of life, and it's super adorable, especially if you are a fan of Kimi no Todoke. I would say you would definitely like this one as well. So in this you're following Mitsumi, who is a country mouse, and she ends up coming to Tokyo for school, except she has just no real wits about her. She's a smart person, but when it comes to like actual human society, she doesn't know left from right, and so she kind of like gets into like all these issues and all these troubles, and it's her just kind of like learning like what city life is like and kind of like readjusting to it, and it is absolutely adorable and hilarious. There's also such great female friendships in this as well, and a really cute potential budding romance. Then we've got volumes 1 and volumes 2 of Oshinoko, which is also currently a really popular anime out this simulcast season. I actually haven't watched this one yet because I don't have the subscription to whichever this is streaming on. But this manga series took me by surprise because I was not expecting it to be what it actually is about, which shouldn't be a spoiler because the entire first episode of the anime is the entire first volume, but you don't really understand what it's okay, you know, fuck it, whatever, I don't care. So Oshinoko is a really popular J-pop idol. She ends up getting pregnant with twins, and her stalker ends up coming to murder her after she gives birth to these babies because he's pissed that she had babies. You're then following these two children years later as they decide to become idols and act and like famous people themselves. The thing is that the daughter is becoming famous because she wants to follow in her mother's footsteps, whereas the son is becoming famous because he wants to track down his mum's killer because he believes that the killer is in the entertainment industry. And at the same time, the son and the daughter are actually reincarnations of people who have died in their previous lives. And so it's also partially an isekai as well. And it's really interesting. It's such a gorgeous art style and I'm super invested in it, and I cannot wait to see where it keeps on going. Then we have Coffee Moon Volume 1. This is a super unique, really cool manga that I haven't seen a lot of people talk about. Basically, you're following this girl who is stuck in like a Groundhog Day like repeat loop. But the thing is that no matter what she does, the day just doesn't change, and she's lived out the same day, which is her birthday, 1033 times, until one day her best friend also enters the time loop, and then it kind of, you know, proceeds from there. The art style in this is so amazing. It's also really creepy at the same time, and there's so much potential for like where this is gonna go and like whether or not they'll be able to like change anything, or if this is all like stuck with where they currently are and like what's going on in society. So if you kind of like a bit more of creepier vibes, this is gonna be the one for you. Then we have Wotakoi Volume 4, which I recently received from Galena, which I'm so excited about. Wotakoi is one of my favorite manga series of all time. So, well, the full name is Wotakoi, Love is Hard for an Otaku, and basically you're following this group of 4 friends who are all otakus, and they all work at the same place, and they all are having like individual romances. And it is absolutely the cutest thing in the entire world. The main romance is between Narumi and Hirotaka, best friends for years, who just rekindle their like friendship when she moves to the company, and they end up deciding to date because they're kind of just like, well, we haven't dated anyone else, why don't we just date each other and see what it's like? And then as the series goes on, other people fall in love, like their co-workers and things like that, and it's super fun. It's also really unique in the panel styling from time to time. Like the more recent volumes are a bit more traditional in the way that like the panel setups are, but in the very earlier ones, a lot of the panel setups were a lot more like individual, like six styled, which was kind of curious. There is also an anime series for this that's on Amazon Prime. If you have not checked it out, I highly recommend it. Man, I love this manga series so much. It's so good. Then we have A Galaxy Next Door, which also has just recently come out as an anime this simulcast season that everyone is going crazy over. This is once again a seinen. It's not a shoujo or a josei, which surprises a lot of people. So you're following this guy who's a mangaka. He's got two younger siblings. He's struggling to meet his deadlines because his two assistants just quit. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's trying to find someone who can step in. He meets this girl one day who offers to, you know, become one of his assistants. He's like, oh my god, yes, thank you, like perfect. And she's this amazing goddess of a human being. Until one day, you know, they fell asleep while they were working on stuff, and he sees this like random thing poking out of her, touches this thing that's poking out of her. Turns out that she's actually an intergalactic princess, and by touching this thing that's, you know, coming out of her body, he is now her betrothed. And it is their life together and how everything kind of proceeds from there, which I know seems like a little bit like out there, but it's super fun. It's so sweet and wholesome at the same time with them, and it's very different. It feels really cool, and I really am vibing with it so far. I've only watched the first 2 episodes that have come out too, plus reading the first volume, so it's been good. Then we have Light is on Top, which is a spice manga. So this means that this does have explicit content in it that is rated 18 plus for parental advisory. You're following these two people who both have issues dating and sexually. So our girl here, she never really enjoys sex with the guys that she's with, and she ends up figuring out the reason why she doesn't like sex with any of the guys that she's with is because she's a dom. She doesn't like to be a submissive in the bedroom, so likes to be a dominant, like the dom person. And then you have this guy who does enjoy sex. The problem is that he can never get it up because it turns out that he needs to be submissive in the bedroom in order to get it up. However, he refuses to admit that that's what he needs to be because he doesn't think that's like a manly thing. Anyway, they end up going on a date. They end up kind of meeting each other and learning these things about them and kind of deciding to kind of explore themselves sexually with each other to kind of figure out what does and doesn't work, and it is their romance as they kind of talk about it and explore that, which I think is actually super healthy as well. Then we have Yakuza Fiancé, which I'm so in love with at the moment. I need to get more volumes. I've only read the first one, and it's absolutely freaking amazing. So you're following this girl who's a Yakuza princess, and she ends up getting betrothed to marry the grandson of a different Yakuza clan. And so she goes to go marry this guy and move in with him, and this guy is completely cold to her. He says nothing to her. He's very dismissive all the time. He's not nice to her, and she's trying to, you know, be his betrothed, be his wife, until one day he just like cracks and yells at her and basically is like, you should just leave. I don't want you here. She then cracks and goes all Yakuza princess on his ass, and he sits there and he goes, oh, shit, you're a badass too? Just kidding, no, I want to be with you. And so he's a total like masochist. It's actually, and it throws her off so hard because she's sitting there and she goes, wait, what? She goes, oh, no. She's like, no, this is weird to me now. She's like, no, I still want to leave. Thank you, goodbye. And it's their romance, and it's actually really, really fun. I've had a blast reading it so far, and it took me by such surprise by how much I did love this, especially because like the art style in this mangaka has a really unique style that I really haven't seen too much before, if you kind of like can see like what the style is like in this. So I definitely recommend this one. This one's like so underrated. Next we have The Witch and the Knight Survive, Volume 1. This one's interesting. So you're following this guy who's a knight, and it turns out that his entire city, his entire town has fallen under a curse, and everyone's like fallen asleep. And he believes, he's told it is the work of this witch who's in the woods. So he goes into the woods to go kill this witch, only for the witch to tell him that she is not the reason that his town was cursed. And so he ends up bringing the witch back to his town and finds out that no, actually, they're not cursed. They've all back into an eternal sleep. They're actually all dead. Their bodies just preserved from like the woods and stuff. And so she then tells him that this is just the beginning, that the woods have cursed his town and that there are going to be more curses that keep on coming. So the two of them decide to work together to find out like why this is happening and what they can do to reverse it before it takes over the entire kingdom. Then we have The Horizon Volume 1. So this is actually read left to right. You actually read it like a regular book, which is kind of interesting. It's from Ice Press, and this is nuts. It is black and white, but there are a couple of scenes that are in color with red and in like blue, depending on what's going on. And you're following these two children who have survived the apocalypse, and everything that kind of happens after that. And so just to kind of give you an idea of what the art style in this kind of looks like, it's really hauntingly creepy. If I have to like find a way to like kind of explain it. Let's see if I can get something that's not. Oh my god, every time I look at this, it just gives me the chills, dudes. Like, that is so creepy. And then you've got this, you know. Then we've got Shy, Volume 1. So this is set in a world where every single country has their own elected superhero. And in this, Japan's like superhero representative is this superhero named Shy, who's super shy, doesn't like people to see like them in spandex or anything. And it's kind of just like the journey of like what it's like to be a superhero defending the entire world, like all these other superheroes. Although I say super cute, but it's not really. There's like some dark shit that does like go on in this, and it does kind of get like pretty messed up at the same time. But the art styles, she's cute. She's cute and adorable. The things that go on like in the evil stuff and the monsters, they're not cute. They're really messed up. But everything else is good. And she's also like a regular student as well too, and so it's like a whole thing that goes on for her. Then we have one of my favorites, and that is Honey Lemon Soda Volume 1. I was so excited when this got the English translation, squealed my like lungs out. So following this girl who's Uka Ishimori, and she was bullied her entire life and was unable to make friends, but she decided that when she would enter high school, she would make things different and she would actually make friends for once, and she would have a fun life and be able to do things. However, once again, she's entered high school and she's still really struggling to do that until one day she gets like spilt, like lemon soda gets spilt all over her, and she ends up coming into contact with Kai Miura, who was actually one of the most popular guys at her school. And from this interaction, he ends up taking kind of like an interest in her, and he begins to realize that, you know, she is on the side all the time. He decides that he's gonna actually help her make friends as well. And so it has a little bit of like ᴛɪධᴛᴏᴅ vibes, except for the fact that like the guy in this is a bit more of like a delinquent than like the student council president that you get from ᴛɪධᴛᴏᴅ. And this one, Kai is like the delinquent, hot, bad boy, but he's not really that much of a delinquent. He just has like bright yellow hair. And the two of them end up falling in love over the course of this as well, and it's so adorable. It's like one of my hallmark shoujo mangas, so you have to check this one out. Then we have Imakoi Volume 1, another shoujo here. This follows a girl who decides that she's going to confess her love to the next person that she sees that she is attracted to, because every single time in the past she waits and then it becomes too late. What ends up happening is one day she's on the train and this guy ends up saving her from like this creepy guy, and she decides that she's fallen in love with him, and she decides to confess to him and see if he will date her, and he says yes. And this guy is actually one of the most popular guys at her school as well. He looks a little bit scary at times, but he's also super sweet, and it's the two of them kind of embarking on their very first love together, and it's about all the ups and downs and all the different things that happen from that. It is so cute. I love it to death. You need to check this one. Then we have Seventh Time Loop. The villainess enjoys a carefree life married to her worst enemy. This is an isekai, obviously, and this follows a girl who every single time she turns 20 dies. No matter what she does, she keeps on dying every single time she turns the age of 20. She has been a merchant, an apothecary, a maid, and everything like that. She was even a knight in her last life, and she decided that for this life, for this seventh life, she's gonna live a really chill and lazy life until she gets a marriage proposal from the Crown Prince. And the Crown Prince is the one who murdered her in her last life. And so she ends up agreeing to get married to him, and it's her marriage with him and their life in this new round. And it is so good, so amazing. I'm such a sucker for isekais, so like this is like deliciousness to me. Then we have No Longer Heroine, which again is another hallmark shoujo manga that got translated into English at the end of last year. And this one, man, I love this one so much. If you have not checked this out, you're missing out, because it has so many like traditional, like the mangaka style in this is like your classic manga style from like back in the day, just a bit more updated. Let me see if I can find an example of like kind of what I mean. Well, first things first, like the way that she cries. You know, like this classic style from like back in the day of just like the extra. So you're following this girl who's very popular at her school and her entire life has kind of thought of herself as the heroine of her story. And part of being the heroine of the story, she knows that the hero, her love interest, is her best friend. So even though her best friend, who is super popular, who always dates around, she's like, I'm not worried about that because when the day comes, like, this is our love story, this is our romance, like, we're meant to be together, we're like the main characters. Until things start to go very haywire and like askew and she starts to wonder whether or not she is the heroine of her own story and like what she's gonna do about that. And it is just hilarious. It is so funny. It's like a very like slice of life, like school life shoujo if you're looking for that. Then we have Wolf Girl and Black Prince. Once again, one of my favorite shoujos that finally got a English translation this year in 2023. This does already have a anime adaptation that came out, God, like 5-6 years ago now, which by the way has an amazing OST if you have not watched it. But this follows Erica, and she told her two friends in school that she had a boyfriend because she wanted to fit in with them and make friends. The problem is that her two friends are now getting to the point where they think that Erica's been lying about having a boyfriend, which she has. She has. The boyfriend don't exist. And so what she ends up doing is one day while she's out and about, she takes a photo of a random guy that she sees and tells her two friends that like, hey, this is my boyfriend, and shows them the photo. Turns out this guy goes to their school and is super freaking popular. So then rumors start spreading that she's like, you know, in a relationship with him. So she has to go to him and beg him to be in a fake relationship. And he is a masochist. And he goes, yeah, I'll be your fake boyfriend. In return, you have to be my dog. Basically, he's like, you have to be my gopher. Whatever I want, you have to do it for me. You're at my beck and call 24 hours a day. If you do that, I'll be your fake boyfriend whenever you need to be your fake boyfriend. And it is their like bully romance, basically. Some people don't like this because it is a bully romance. It's a little bit toxic, but I don't care. So then we have Then we have We Can't Do Just Plain Love Volume 1, which just came out from Tokyo Pop. This is a brand new spice manga. There's 3 spice scenes in this one. So this follows Sakura, and she's just been transferred to work under a new supervisor at her office, and that is Tatsuki. From the outside, the two of them look really normal, like they're pretty put together, except for the fact they both have 2 really big issues. Tatsuki, for one, can't be around women without getting horny AF, and Sakura, on the other side, has a scent fetish. And so the two of them end up deciding to help each other out with their issues so that they can still appear normal to everyone else and live out their lives. It's a little bit out there, a little bit outlandish, but if you're looking for a little bit of spice in your life, check it out. Then we have The Accomplishments of the Duke's Daughter, which I was also sent by Galina. And this is another isekai. This is about a girl who ends up waking up in she gets killed in real life and wakes up inside of an otome game as the villainess. However, she decides that she's not going to follow the route of the game and chase after the crown prince and all that kind of stuff and become the villainess. She's like, I don't want to deal with that. She's like, I got different ideas. She's like, being the villainess, like, this character has so much going for her. I don't know why she's bothering with the crown prince when she's got all these other things that she could be doing. So she decides instead that she's going to help take over her father's dukedom and actually make it really good because it's starting to kind of delve into poverty. And so instead she's going to impart things that she knew from the human world into the dating sim in order to make herself like really successful and wealthy. Then we have My Dear Curse Casting Vampiress Volume 1. So there's set in a world where there are vampires, and there is this guy who is a vampire slayer. However, the tide of the war is not going in their favor. The vampires taking over. But what they have in their custody is this vampiress who is actually known for actually slaying other vampires. And so he ends up teaming up with her, and the two of them end up going to, you know, murder their vampires together. And it is their story. It's really cute, actually. I mean, it's vampires and death and things like that, but like she's adorable and so sweet. Next we have volumes 1 through 4 of Fiancé of the Wizard. This is volume 1, this is volume 2, here is volume 3, and volume 4. Oh, they're just so cute. So this follows a girl who is in an isekai. She ends up getting reborn into a fantasy world, and when she's 3 years old, she has memories of her past life as a human in the, you know, on Earth. And she realizes that she's in this fantasy world, and she thinks, oh my god, like I'm reborn in it, like does that mean like I'm the chosen one? No, she's not the chosen one. But instead what happens is she ends up making friends with this young boy, this young wizard from a very young age, and ends up becoming his betrothed, and he is actually one of the chosen ones who will be sent to kind of save the entire kingdom. He's this really smart wizard, but everyone's afraid of him because he has black hair. But obviously she's not afraid of him because he has black hair, because back in Japan, everyone had black hair. And so that's how like their romance starts out from a young age, and then they get betrothed, and then kind of everything kind of progresses from there up until the final book where the final battle happens. And it's actually really fun and really interesting and very unique for an isekai because it takes a different perspective on it than you normally see, because she isn't the chosen one, but she's like betrothed to one of the chosen ones. Then we have volume 1 and volume 2 of The Otherworld's books depend on the bean counter. I always have to look at the name for this because I will never remember it just by saying it off by heart. But this is a BL manga, which is boys love, which means that it is a MM manga. You're following this guy, this is also an isekai. You're following this guy, he's living his regular life in the human world until he sees one day a portal open up and he sees a woman being dragged into said portal. And he goes, oh no, that's not good. Grabs the woman, and also ends up going through the portal. So him and this girl go through the portal, and it turns out that she is like the prophesized chosen one, and he accidentally ended up in this world. And they're all like, oh my god, what do we do with this random ass man who came in from the human world that we didn't mean to summon? And he used to be an accountant, so he decides that he's going to also help this world out by helping them out with their finances, and he ends up having a romance with the prophesized woman's knight, like the chosen one's knight, and so it's their romance throughout this. It's a slow burn and a little thing, but it's absolutely hilarious. It's the funniest shit in the entire world. Next we have Cheeky Brat, which is another one of my favorites that was finally translated over into English last year. So you're following Yuki, who is the manager to her high school's basketball team, and she's the manager there because she's in love with one of her senpais. One day she ends up meeting this guy who's younger than her from a rival like basketball school. They meet, sparks fly between the two of them, but like nothing really comes from it until later on. It turns out that he's actually joined that same high school and is now also part of the basketball team, and he has made it his mission to make Yuki fall in love with him, even though he's like 2 years younger than her and she's in love with this guy who's a year older than her. So it's this big love triangle going on between all of them, and like who's in love with who, and it's so much fun. I absolutely adore it. I also feel like it's a really fun one with like an older girl, younger guy, and like that whole aspect of it, plus the basketball's really fun too, and definitely recommend this one. It's like, it's an oldie, but it's a goodie. Then we have How Do We Relationship, and this is a GL manga, which is girls love. It is an FF manga. So this follows these two girls who have just moved to college, and they're both gay, and they've never met anyone else who is also like lesbian too, and when they meet each other and find out that each other are both lesbian, they decide to enter into a relationship so they can kind of explore dating and learn what it is like and fall in love together. So it is them kind of navigating that and kind of figuring it out for the very first time and kind of exploring it all, and it's very slice of life in that sense, and it's got like that josei kind of like spin on it too, with them all being in college. Then we have Hi, I'm a Witch and My Crush Wants Me to Make a Love Potion, Volume 1. This follows a girl who's a witch. She lives in the woods, she makes potions and all this kind of stuff, and one day a knight comes to her asking for a love potion, and she kind of starts falling in love with him. And she starts sending him on these like really like outlandish missions to like get the different ingredients for the love potion. And as it goes along, he kind of becomes quite fond of her and realizes that she's living out in this like little cottage in the woods with like not much stuff, and so he starts bringing her gifts and starts falling for her as well. And it is their romance. It is so cute because he realizes that she has like this really like raggedy old cloak at one point, and so he brings her a brand new cloak, and he's so cute. Oh, it's so adorable, and she's like the sweetest little thing in the entire world. Like, she's so adorable. Oh my god. Then we have volume 1 of The Fiancé Chosen by the Ring. So what's happening is you're following this woman who's like a noble lady. Her whole life's gone really well for her. One night she's at a ball, and while she's at the ball, she gets hit in the head by a wedding ring. She picks it up. She goes, what is this? And after that, one of the finest, most dedicated and decorated knights of the kingdom comes up to her and says, you are now my fiance. And she goes, I am your what? What? Sorry? And it turns out that everyone's been asking him to get married, that he was like, that's it, I'm done. I'm yeeting this ring into this room full of women, and whoever the ring hits will be my fiance. And that is the prophecy of this ring, and everyone believes him. So he ends up asking her to at least enter into a fake engagement so he can get everyone off his back in the meantime, and she pities him and she feels really bad, so she ends up agreeing. And it is their romance. It's so funny because initially she's like, I'm not marrying you. And he's like, please, like, I really need your help. And she's like, oh, you look so sad. Okay, I will. And it's so good. Next we have Tsubakicho Lonely Planet Volume 1. So this follows a girl who gets stuck with her father's debts after he leaves and is then evicted from where she lives. So she ends up trying to find a job really quick, and she finds a job as a live-in housekeeper for this really famous author. Now she assumes this author is going to be like this old dude until she gets there, and it's not an old dude, it's a really attractive man's, okay? And so she still agrees to the job, but while she's living there she starts to fall in love with him. There's a bit of an age gap between the two of them. He's like in his early 20s, she's in her late teens, and there's a whole thing that goes on. This is by the same mangaka that did Daytime Shooting Star as well, if you are familiar with it, which it also has a lot of the same themes that you did see also in that manga series. Next we have Mint Chocolate Volume 1. So you're following Nanami, whose mum has just gotten remarried, and she finally, for the very first time, gets to meet her mum's new husband and her brand new stepbrother, only to find out that her new stepbrother is this super popular guy who is her classmate that she has actually been crushing on for the last 4 months. And so it is her forbidden romance with him. Now I know that can be a bit taboo for a lot of people with the stepbrother aspect of this romance, but this is a shoujo manga, and in shoujo manga world, that don't matter. Step siblings are like, they're not even siblings. Step siblings are never siblings in manga, which is quite interesting. Then we have Persona 5 Volume 1. This is based off the video game, which then also got a manga adaptation plus a anime adaptation. If you've not seen it, how do I explain this? Basically following this, there's a video game that gives people the ability to turn into like these superhero things, and then if you're one of those people who can turn to superheroes, you have the ability to enter into alternate realities that are created out of people's deepest and darkest desires. And if you have to go into these deep dark desires and dispel them, otherwise they will kind of mutate and take over everything. Yeah, does that make sense? I hope so. Probably not. I don't really care if it doesn't make sense. I didn't think this was going to. Then I've got Yakuza Lover Volume 2, which is the second volume in this series, and this follows a girl who one day is about to get attacked in a karaoke bar and ends up getting saved by this guy who ends up being the head of a yakuza, and the two of them end up starting a romance. This is a spicy romance series, not too spicy, a really good beginner spicy romance, actually if you're looking for that, but it is very heavy on the insta-love, so if you're not a big fan of like insta-love and like instant relationships, do know that before going into it. Alright, then we have The Villainess and the Demon Knight Volume 1. This follows a girl who realizes that she is actually in an anime game, except for the fact that she doesn't realize that she's in the anime game until the game has finished, okay? So she's a villainess, she lost, okay? She's got no money, the crown prince has left her, she's now living in a brothel, okay? And that's when she wakes up and goes, oh, I'm in a video game. And then goes, oh, well, too late for that, I can't change anything now. And so it's the very first night in the brothel, she's about to have her very first sexy customer, and lo and behold, it is none other than the debauched leader of the Imperial Guard. And what ends up happening is after the very first night together, he ends up actually bringing her back to his mansion and declaring that she is his fiancée, because he's actually been in love with her for years. Which is quite hilarious. I had a lot of fun reading this. I can't wait for the future volumes. It's a really unique one in that sense too. Then we have Game Between the Suits, which is another josei. This follows this woman who is an office worker. She's a very high-powered office worker who really puts her career over anything else. Like, she'll be having sex. Like this opens up with her having sex, and she pauses in between sex to answer like a work email. And the guy's like, are you serious right now? And every single guy she's ever been with gets really intimidated by that about her. And one day, a brand new guy starts at her office and he decides that he's going to seduce her, and she says no, until they end up starting a sexual relationship and decide to keep it as just being a sexual relationship, and it's them together and him trying to convince her to fall in love. And then lastly, we have got I'll Never Be Your Crown Princess. These are all spicy, by the way, over 18 plus, R-rated. So is Liddy, who wakes up and is reborn into a new world. She's the daughter of a duke and is also engaged to the crown prince, which should be an amazing life. Except for the fact that the crown prince engages in polygamy and has like 17,000 different wives, and she refuses to, be in love with a guy who is like that. She wants to be the only wife, she wants to be, wants to find her one true love, and so the only way she can break off her engagement with the crown prince is if she loses her virginity. So one night she decides to go to a masquerade ball and lose her virginity to a guy that she meets there, except for the fact that lo and behold, the mysterious masked man she does the do with is actually the crown prince. Yeah, she fucked up anyway. It didn't even work. Not only that, but the crown prince fell in love with her that night as her masked beauty and gave her this like rose tattoo that basically shows that she's going to be the next princess and queen. And so it just ends up being a whole cluster for her. And she's like, oh god damn it. She's like, how did I mess this up? Alright, now we're gonna move on to my manhwas, which I'm going to grab out for everyone. So first things first, if you're not aware of what a manhwa is, it is a Korean comic and it's actually all in full color if you do read these, which is actually really fun, and you do read them the opposite way that you do a manga. You actually read these very similar to like a regular book, which is left to right. So this is another isekai from this woman who ends up waking up in a novel that she read previously as one of the side characters. The only problem is that this side character is destined to be killed by her fiance as part of a plot device for the heroine. And Raeliana is like, I was just killed in my first life. She's like, I'm not going to be killed again in this second life. I need to find a way to like prevent this. So what she ends up doing is using her knowledge of what she knows is going to be going on later on in the book, and ends up proposing to the Duke a six-month contract marriage, because this guy's way more powerful. It's the only way that she'll be able to get out of her current marriage. And the Duke agrees to enter this contract marriage if the fact that he will be her fake fiance, if she will be his fake fiance. At the same time, she will also feed him the information that she knows that will also help him. And so it is their romance. This is also currently streaming online as an anime as well. Then we have Villains Are Destined to Die Volume 1. I'll be getting Volume 2 shortly, but this is literally one of my favorites. It is absolutely gorgeous and stunning, and like if you pick up one manhwa, it has to be this one. Once again, follows a girl who wakes up in an anime game. So she's been playing this anime game, this dating simulation for ages, and is finally playing it on hard mode. And she cannot seem to complete hard mode, because on hard mode, you play as a villainess and have to try and make sure the villainess survives. She ends up waking up in the anime game on hard mode as the villainess and must now find ways to navigate it without dying, which is really, really difficult because she could literally die at any moment. With any small misstep, she could be murdered. And so it's her trying to navigate this and avoid that. Then we have The Remarried Empress, which might be some of the prettiest manhwas that are out there because they have this foiling on them. Do you see that? Oh, absolutely stunning. But this follows the Empress, who has been training her entire life to become the Empress and get married to the Emperor. They've been married for many, many years now. They grew up together, they were living happily until the Emperor brings home a mistress. He brings home a mistress who he has magically fallen in love with and decides to throw the Empress to the side and treat her like shit. And eventually he ends up asking the Empress if they can get a divorce so he can be with his mistress instead. And when that happens, she decides to give him a reverse Uno and is like, okay, I accept a divorce, but instead I would like to get remarried as well. And he goes, what do you mean you want to get married again as well? To who? And she goes, to your enemy. And that's how the series starts off, and you kind of follow it from there to kind of see how this all ended up where it did. And it's so good. Oh my god, it's such a cult. You can actually read these all online as well if you feel like it. You don't have to buy them in print. But they're so much fun, and I'm so invested. And there is magic in this too. But oh my god, the Emperor and his mistress are literally like some of the worst characters I've ever read about in my entire life. Like, they need to like be murdered 17 times over. Because honestly, our Empress is such a baddie and deserves all the love in the world. Literally love her to death. Then we have My Gently Raised Beast, Volumes 1 and Volume 2. This one's super adorable. It starts off from when they're at a very young age. You're following this girl named Blondina. So you're following Blondina, who's an orphan, until she finds out that she's actually a long-lost princess and is brought to the royal palace, except for the fact that people still don't treat her really well, even though she is a long-lost princess. And one day she comes across this cute little black cat, and she decides to make friends with this cute little black cat, not knowing that this cute little black cat is actually a very, very, very powerful demon cat creature. So this guy here ends up being a divine leopard who is actually supposed to be the next king of the divine leopards, except for the fact that everyone is actually afraid of him because his creatures, there's not many of them left, and they used to be like highly revered until they were accused of like murdering like the last king and stuff like that. And so Blondina ends up making friends with him, and it is her friendship as like the long lost princess with this like prince of the divine beasts as they kind of grow up together as like both outcasts but becoming really like dope people as well, and like kind of the next rulers of everything, and I absolutely adore it so much. Then we have What's Wrong with Secretary Kim Volume 1, which was it was always a web comic, but then it also became a super popular K-drama that if you have not seen the K-drama, you definitely need to. But you're following this woman who has been the secretary for this vice president for many, many years now. And she has finally decided that she's had enough. She wants to quit, she's got her savings, she just wants to get married, have a family, and kind of focus on that. So she tells him that he's quitting. And he goes, no. He goes, why would you quit? He's like, I'm the best boss ever. Like, we work so well together. I'm amazing. Who wouldn't want to work for me? And she tells him, like, it's because I want to, like, you know, leave and get married. And he goes, well, then just marry me and it'll be fun. Let's do that instead. And she goes, I'm not marrying you. That makes no sense. And he's like, no. Marry me, it's all good. And then sets out to then woo her to marry him so that she won't leave the company, not realizing that he's actually been in love with her this entire time. And then my very last manhwas, we have got The Abandoned Empress. This is volume 1. Here we have volume 2, and then we have volume 3. This is my favorite boo-boo out of all of them. I will say I enjoy this series, but it did not end up with the end ship that I wanted it to end with. So you find this girl who was always prophesized to be the empress until one day, many years, like back, like right when she's supposed to like become the empress, the actual prophesized empress turns up and she gets tossed aside and basically dies. And then she ends up waking up back when she's a child again, but has all of her memories of how her previous life ended. And so waking up in her 10-year-old body, she decides that she's not going to follow the same path that she previously did. She's going to find a way to fix what happened before and actually survive and not die this time around, because she knows now that she's not the prophesized empress. So she's going to go about this in a different way. And she actually becomes like this really badass like sword chick too, which is really cool, which I totally vibe with. And so it's really fun. And then last but not least, I have one light novel, and that is The Princess of Convenient Plot Devices. A light novel is... it's a regular book, but it does have some artwork in it, but mostly it's just a story. And basically this follows a girl who wakes up in one of her favorite anime games. I know, it's an isekai again. But it's a BL, and she wakes up in it as the sister to the crown prince, and she's really excited about this until she realizes that her entire role is to actually be the surrogate for the crown prince and his lover. And she goes, oh, no. She's like, I want to have my own love. I don't want to be the surrogate for you guys. I want my own life to be in this world. So she sets out to kind of find her own romance. And yep, there we go. There's all the... God, this was an exhausting video to film. Those are all the manga manhwas and the light novel that I have gotten over the last 6 months. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to check out my other manga content that I do have on here as well as on TikTok. And if you did enjoy the video, please hit the like button down below. And until next time, thanks much everyone. Bye-bye.